Good evening, everyone. So, here we are to learn about what is sensory diet. Just waiting for a few more participants to join. Let's start and begin the webinar Understanding Sensory Diet. I'm planning to speak in English, but if there's anyone who would want Hindi translation, please let us know. We are open to that. So Bernali, if you find any message where people want any other translation, especially in Hindi or even Ohomia, we can do it together. Thank you everyone from the bottom of my heart, from the team of Magic of Intervention for being here on the weekend. And this 1 hour is not only about telling you about sensory diet, but it would be an interactive session where we would be answering queries in the last or even Ohomia. We can do it together. Thank you everyone from the bottom of my heart, from the team of Magic of Intervention for being here on the weekend. And this 1 hour is not only about telling you about sensory diet, but it would be an interactive session where we would be answering queries in the last 25 to 30 minutes. So here I am, I'm Gitali Saikia. I've been empowering families for more than 23 years now. I'm a BrainGem registered program facilitator. I'm trained in primitive reflex integration. That's something which we will focus on today. Oral placement therapy, which is used for articulation and feeding. I'm a developmental therapist, and I started off as a developmental therapist in 2002. I'm an educator trained in working with children with specific learning disabilities. Rise with Sensory talks about sensory diet, sensory integration. I help children to make handwriting easier with a program called Handwriting Without Tears, which is now known as Learning Without Tears. Touch for Health teaches us healing with energy flow, which is excellent to regulate ourselves as well as our children. And yes, we incorporate acupressure and yoga. So if you can see, everything what we speak about here is regarding the development of the children who come to us, and it is a holistic program so that the parents don't have to move on from one center to the other. So everything is under the same roof except for medical needs. So today the topic is understanding sensory diet. So when we talk about diet, the first thing which comes to our mind is food. So we have something in the morning as breakfast, lunch, dinner, and it's not always the same thing, right? So that is the diet which we give to our own bodies. But our central nervous system, our peripheral nervous system also needs a diet. That is called a sensory diet. How does it help us? The specific sensory input helps us to stay regulated and focused. And why is this webinar for? It is to create an awareness to help you understand the different senses and the diet which you can provide. And it is especially true for individuals with sensory processing challenges, because that's what we see a lot nowadays. Children not regulated, not being able to eat certain types of food, not being able to wear. And I would like to mention this session would specially focus on tactile sense. Why? When we talk about therapy, whether it's occupational therapy, physiotherapy, whether we talk about speech therapy, we need to touch the child. And that is where the child, if the child is hypersensitive, does not feel comfortable, it becomes very difficult for the therapist and the parents to follow the plan. What is the most important thing about sensory diet? Is the way we provide food to our body at regular intervals. The sensory diet has to be provided to the child or the adult or the young adult throughout the day like meals. This is one misconception which I would like to clear, that when our children go to a center and they are there for around an hour or so, maybe even 3 hours. But when they come home, it doesn't mean that the body wouldn't need the sensory diet. It might differ. If the child was provided vestibular input, the child might need tactile input later. So now I'm using certain terms. I would explain them too as we move along. As food provides energy, movements and activities energize the system. But that doesn't mean that we see a child all over the place, running around, jumping around. And we just tell that, okay, this child needs to run. So let the child just run, and the child will start focusing. No, it has to be streamlined. It has to be according to the needs. Water, it maintains bodily functions. Similarly, proprioceptive input maintains regulation. So we will get into the details, not details, I'll just share what are proprioception, what is vestibular, and similarly the vestibular input will support the neural function when we talk about the nervous system. So here with all our senses, the body will receive the information through all the senses. Where will it go? It would reach the brain. The brain would send out signals and then we are regulated. So this is the whole cycle which we need to be very careful, we should notice it. Which sense is seeking the diet? How will it help me regulate myself? My child is jumping around, but I want the child to sit down and maybe complete a homework. So will I just let the child jump and suddenly the child would sit and start studying? No. So we have to learn how to give the proper sensory diet to the child and then move on. Which are the physical signs? The child constantly moving, fidgeting, chewing on objects. Have you seen children chewing on their t-shirt, chewing on their pencil, whatever they find, they would just put it inside their mouth. Crashing into things. And what are the emotional signs? Irritability, anger, meltdowns, tantrums, difficulty in transitioning. Isn't this one area which I think we all are finding it very challenging? If the child is into one activity, it's very difficult to move the child from one activity to the next. And when we talk about senses, these are the red flags and you would be able to relate it as we move ahead. When we talk about visual red flags, the child might avoid eye contact, sensitive to bright lights, distracted by visual stimuli, but at the same time you would even find few children just moving more towards the brighter lights. Auditory, they cover their ears frequently, they get startled by loud noises, the sound of the mixer grinder, the sound of the cooker. And even when you get them to a salon, it's very difficult to get a haircut done. Why? Because you have the sound of the scissors, the hair dryer, the trimmer, all going on at the same time. Tactile, this is the area which we are going to look into today. Dislikes clothing tags, avoids touch, seeks intense pressure. Smell and taste, overwhelmed by odors, limited food preferences, gags on certain textures. So you give them food, they might not enjoy it, that's something different. But as soon as they smell it, they touch it, it would feel that they are going to vomit. Now, what do you do? The first and foremost thing, you have to notice, you have to observe what is the sensory need at that point of time. For all of you there, your videos are switched off today, But now if you look into yourself, is anyone shaking their leg? Someone rocking themselves? Someone chewing their or biting their nails? Or trying to touch something and moving their something in their palm? So these are, what are you doing? You're regulating yourself. You are providing a sensory diet to your body. Why? So that you can focus on what's happening here. What am I talking about? What are you seeing? Throughout the day, notice. If you start noticing yourself, it will be very easy for you to notice what's happening in your child. And when you provide a sensory diet, these are statistics, increases better, it's like increases focus, improved attention. That is one thing which has become a challenge in preschool, primary section, middle school. If you talk about or the children in higher classes too, they find it so difficult to sit down. Reduced anxiety for sure, improved sleep, and fewer meltdowns. This is a very important factor, sleep. How many hours is the child sleeping and what is the quality of the sleep? Better the sleep, better is the regulation. Why? Because whatever happens throughout the day, whatever experiences the brain has received throughout the day, the connections are made at night when you're asleep. And how would you help yourself? How would you help your children? Create those sensory spaces. So you know that your child likes to jump. Not necessarily all can get a trampoline into their homes, but we can provide cushions. We can provide an area where the child can jump. We know a child loves to play with water. We have to figure a way out to do it either outdoors or maybe in the washroom. And this is what I want to stress on. Routines, routines, routines. It is exactly the way, nowadays I've started sharing a simile with parents. What do I say? The doctor prescribes a medication, tells you a time, specific time, you will pop that pill because you know the doctor's advice. The same is for our children. You will have to provide them the sensory input throughout the day. It can't be, I did it in the morning, okay, I'll do it the next day. No, it doesn't work. And the sensory input need not be for half an hour, 45 minutes. It can even be a 5-minute thing. So just note these things. First of all, what is a sensory diet? We are feeding the senses. When do we do it? We do it throughout the day. Does it take long? No. It can be in small pockets of time, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or even it can extend to longer duration if the child is enjoying it. And when we talk about senses, we all are aware. And usually this is the answer which we get. How many senses? Right? So it's like, we say it's 5 senses, but those are the far senses of vision, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. And I'm sure a lot of us are now aware of these senses. These are called the near senses, the vestibular sense. It is due to the little amount of fluid which is present in our inner ear. It helps with our balance. This is the most important sense to develop visual focus, auditory focus. Then comes proprioception. What is it? How do you use your muscles? How do you use your joints? So many of the teachers are struggling with children pressing hard onto the paper, writing very lightly. Few children, proprioception is not only about hands or feet, it's also even your Oral musculature, your teeth. How many of our children cannot chew properly? They cannot bite with their incisors. You have to break into small pieces. They put them into their mouth, let the saliva soften in, and then they chew it and then they swallow it. Interoception, what is this? It is what our internal body mechanism telling us, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I need to use the washroom. Isn't this an area where we struggle with our children? They are not being able to tell us that they're hungry, that they are thirsty, they need to even if they soil their clothes, they don't feel it. So this is a very, very important sense. And as I've already mentioned, we are going to discuss about the tactile sensory diet today. Why? Because few people are still joining in. Let me just repeat it. When we talk about intervention, when we talk about therapy, any sort of therapy, we need to touch our child. So if the child is hypersensitive, it is difficult to do the movements. If the child is hyposensitive, the child might not feel what we are doing. It might not reach the brain. So we have to come to a point where the sensory input is balanced. It has reached the brain is sending out the correct signals, and we are regulated, our children are regulated. And a request to all of you, if you've got any questions, please keep sending them through the chat. We would answer them after the session. Now, when we talk about our tactile system, what does it do? It would alert the CNS about the dangers. Okay, you're not supposed to touch this. This is hot. This is a thorn. It might hurt you. Or when we talk about children who do not know the boundaries, we are very worried whether they would understand that the stove is hot. There's a fire there. They might just pick up hot stuff. So the tactile system would alert the CNS, and it also helps us discriminate where has the touch occurred, which part of the body, and what is touching the body. And here when we talk about the tactile sensory red flags, I'm sure a lot of you would know what's happening. Let's see. The first one, here when you talk about sensory diet, these are the very important words which you need to keep in mind. So all of you, from today onwards, if you haven't done it, make these columns. The first one, senses. Is my child an avoider? Is my child a seeker of the sense? Does my child have low registration? Or is it varied? So let's just take a few examples, because then it'll make easier for you to understand. When we talk about avoid, they don't like getting their hands messy, like playing with mud, slime or finger paint. And they also avoid eating with their hands. They'll not touch the food. So if you touch them, a very light tap, they might feel very uncomfortable. And at times, even that light touch might cause a meltdown. And we are like, okay, I just didn't do anything. I just touched your body. Why did you react so bad? But we wouldn't understand what is the reason, how the child is feeling. So we have to keep in mind. So those are the avoiders. So the first column, avoiders. Then comes, when you talk about avoiders, difficulty in getting dressed, brushing their teeth, cutting their hair, clipping their nails. So they have very limited food diet also. They wouldn't be able to eat a lot. And I'm sure one of my students who is part of this group, I'm sure you can relate to whatever I'm saying. And then low registration, what is that? They get hurt, there is a cut or a scrape, but they are not aware of it. And some children also dig into their wounds a lot. That is low registration. They bump into things or people a lot without noticing. They don't feel small touches like gently patting their arm. Then comes the seekers. So we had avoiders, low registration, now the children who seek. They might love playing with slime, Play-Doh or anything squishy. They would chew on their shirts, their pencils, their toys. They even make holes in their t-shirt. You would see that. They can just bite into the pencil and break it down. Anything, everything around them goes into their mouth. They love big hugs or rough play like wrestling or being squeezed tightly. And then when we have these children who come and hug you, right, who would lean on you, so at times we do tell that, oh, this child doesn't know the boundaries. But then it's this tactile system which is seeking it. And when we talk about varied, this is the most difficult part, because we usually have parents getting confused. Okay, they're ready to play with sand, they're ready to play with slime, but they wouldn't touch food. So those are the varied signs. They usually would allow you to maybe dress them up in any types of clothes, but then you take them to a hairdresser, you want to cut their hair, it's very, very difficult. So when we talk about, especially, why am I putting this? Because hair cutting is one area which is very, very challenging for parents. So when we get into a salon, which are the sounds? At times, it's just one near their ear, the hair trimmer brushing against their skin along with the sound, the blow dryer touching their body, the hair flying off plus the sound, and even the scissors. That's it's all about, right? The nail clippers. So our children find it very, very difficult. And then at times we just struggle to just keep them there. It's crying, howling away, screaming, and even a lot of children you would see the parents end up trimming their whole hair. They just cut it very short. Why? Because it's so strenuous for them. It's strenuous for the child, it's strenuous for the parents. Now, when we talk about sensory diet, that is one way which we can desensitize the child. We can increase the sensitivity if the child is hyposensitive to tactile, or we can balance it if the child is varied. And there is one more amazing technique which I have started using. It's been 3 years, and it's called primitive reflex integration. So, my participants out there, how many of you are aware that there is a technique called primitive reflex integration which can help complement all the other therapies that your child or your student is experiencing? Can you just put it in the chat? If you are aware of what it is, you would like to know what it is, please add it. Now let me take you back to infants. If you put your finger towards on their palm, do they just grasp your finger tight? You just stroke to the corner of the lip, do they start sucking? Right? These are all primitive reflexes. And these emerge and gradually develop in utero and are active for a few months after birth. So they usually start emerging at 5 weeks when the mother is not even aware that she has conceived. As the central nervous system, the CNS, matures, these reflexes get integrated and their influence on movement decreases. So, when we talk about a baby just born, we put our finger and the baby grasps our finger. But gradually, when the baby is around 2 months, 3 months, right? What would happen? The child would bring the hand to midline, would start sucking their thumb, would start feeling other textures, the mother's body, the clothes, everything. Gradually, this is integrated. And later, when you do this, will our fingers close over? No. But yes, for our children, for whom this reflexes are not integrated, they act as a barrier to learning, sensory processing, and emotional maturity. So, what my trainer taught me was that, like house guests who shouldn't stay with you forever, right? They should come and they should leave. Primitive reflexes are the same. They have to be there. They are your protective system, but they have to mature into postural reflexes and then say bye-bye. So, when we are talking about our tactile system, I want to talk about a reflex called the spinal gland reflex. When does it emerge? It emerges 20 to 28 weeks in utero when the baby is in the womb. It peaks at birth. How? When the baby comes out of the birthing canal, and it is very important for developing the vestibular system, which is present, the little amount of water which is present in our inner ear and helps with our balance. And if you see, most of our children with visible red flags which we had, the seekers, the avoiders, the low registration, most of them are cesarean born because the baby does not come out through the birthing canal and the spinal gland reflex does not get activated and integrated. This is a very cute little video of one of our little one. He has been associated with magic of intervention since 3 years, more than 3 years now. It wasn't easy for the parents to take him for a haircut or even do the exercises for that matter. But yes, he has moved ahead. It's very easy. Let's just have a look.
जब सौरभ 1-1.5 साल पहले जब आता था तो उस समय क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम्स थी?
अब बाल काटने ही देता था, बाल काटने नहीं देता था, यह सब होता था।
ठीक है।
तो बैठने में फिर दिक्कत करता था, फिर काटने नहीं देता था उतना।
So what is he saying? बैठने में नहीं देता था, काटने नहीं देता था. It was difficult for the little one to sit down.
बराबर से काटने देता था, फिर आया एक बार काटते थे, एक बार फिर ब्लेड नहीं लगा दे, एक बार मशीन लगा दे।
So he wouldn't allow the hairdresser to even use the hair dryer or clip.
एक बार टॉवल बांधने देते, धीरे धीरे बांधने देता है।
तो धीरे धीरे सब करते हैं,
धीरे धीरे काम।
और तुम जो बताया कि पहले हम उसको दिखा देते हैं, ये देखो सर ये करेंगे हम लोग ऐसे,
वो तो सब कुछ दिखा देते थे के बाद काटते थे।
हाँ कि देखो इससे हम बाल तुम्हारा काटने जा रहे हैं,
सब कुछ दिखा देते थे के बाद बाल काटते थे, सौरभ को बाल काटते थे, सब कुछ अच्छे से बढ़िया से बना देते थे के बाद अच्छे से ड्राई नहीं करते थे।
क्या नहीं यूज करते थे?
मशीन नहीं यूज करते,
ड्रायर जो था,
ड्राई था ना, ड्राई नहीं मारने देते थे,
क्योंकि उससे ड्रायर से क्या होता है,
उसको डरता था,
इसलिए हम लोग उसको समझ जाते थे, क्या उसको
समझ जाता था ना, तो ड्राई नहीं मारने देते, कान में रोने लगता था, ड्राई नहीं मारता तो ब्रश से साफ करते थे। भाई गए बाबू।
So, this is so important for all of us. Gratitude to the family who has always had faith in us, due to which we have reached here, and gratitude to the hairdresser. Please look for them. You will find someone who is ready to help your child, who is ready to meet the child where he is. And I think so, we all need these support systems, which are very, very important. Now, there are queries that, okay, yes, how do we integrate it? So, I would teach you few very easy exercises which are part of integrating the spinal galant reflex. So, the first one, if you see, sliding on the back, any form of it. It can be on the floor. I'll show it to you on the floor today, okay? Because it can be done on different, you can do it outdoors, you can do it indoors, you can do it on different sets of textures. So it can be done even using a bed sheet. So please write all these things, very easily done. And when you do these, you would see a wonderful change in the responses of the tactile system. So do it when you know you have to touch the child for some form of exercise. Before that, ask the child to lie down on a bed sheet, pull the child around. Be on the floor with the child, slide. I'll just speak a bit more and then show you the exercises, and you all please do it together. If you don't do it, you will not be able to recall how it was done. The next one is called the snow angel. Basically, we move our hands and our legs together out. So that also integrates your spinal galant reflex. Isn't this a common sight everywhere earlier? Now when we are living in the urban places, it's very difficult for our children to get that experience. But look at the children. I'm sure a lot of us know that in the rural areas, the bark of the coconut tree, the bark of the palm tree, of the areca nut, the children would lie on it, the others would drag them around. So if we don't have those barks, use a bed sheet. Look at this little one. I found it very cute, so I added this onto the thing. Everything, tactile, vestibular, nothing better than this. So, when we look at this, how do we replicate it in our homes? So, touching anything, everything under the sky. Take the children to the kitchen, take out all the vegetables, whatever you have. Hot water, cold water, slimy, everything is perfect to develop the sense. Now we have these queries, how to help our children. So now the first and foremost is called tactile desensitization. Desensitization is slow. It usually takes at least 4 to 6 weeks of daily sensory bin or messy play, or longer who have severe hypersensitivity. So this is where the consistency, forming a schedule, it's very important. You can aim for just smaller duration and don't expect the child to just come and be there with you throughout. So what we also practice and I ask parents to do is, suppose you want the child to play with sand, or you want the child to just lie down on the floor with you. Be there. Show the child what all can be done with the sand. You can dig, you can hide things. Keep a small lower seating area there. Ask the child to come and just sit next to you. If the child is just there, that means the child is open to it. Try it each day. Believe me, the child would come and touch the sand or lie on the floor. After a period of time, you can reduce the frequency and offer these activities frequently later, even if you see any tactile defensiveness. So, it is not essential that each child would touch the vegetable, the fruit. So, when you talk about sensory bins, if you all have used it, or I'll just share what is a sensory bin, is a bin with all different textures. So, we will not put all textures in one go. A child can be given the vegetable peels just to pick up and throw into the dustbin. They will not touch it, but yes, they can see it, they can smell it. At times, what I do is I chop cucumber, I chop fruits. The child might just move away, but then I just ask them to pick it with a fork and feed us. What happens? They know that at least they're getting the feel of it. They're picking it up, they're giving it to you. So that fight and flight response starts diminishing. And always add on stuff. Don't put everything together. Take the one which is the least scary for the child. Talking about all of this fight and flight response, the reflex is your moro. The brain sends the signal, okay, this is something you wouldn't enjoy. You wouldn't want the therapist to touch you, scream, run away. Take a step back. Instead of, if you see that if you touch this child with your bare skin, if the child is not comfortable, use gloves. If you want the child to pick up something, use spoons. Use a wet cloth to wipe off. As soon if the child holds the maybe touches the sand or just puts his or her finger into the paint, tell them, yes, we can clean it off clearly. So deep pressure helps, messy play helps, sensory bin helps. But the first and foremost thing which we need to write for ourselves is we have to integrate the reflex, and then while we give the experience of spinal movement to the child, we gradually add new stuff. Now coming on to the moro reflex, this is something which tells you to fight or flight. So all of us together, we can do a movement. I'll just show you. So we have got certain points all over our body, which are acupressure points. You can call them emotional stress release points, but they help you calm down. So all of us, let's try this. I'll just open my glasses so that I can show you properly. Put your fingers here. This is your temple. And slightly stretch the skin. Keep breathing in and out. Parents who feel anxious when you're taking your child for your haircut or dressing, undressing, think about it. Put your hands here first. Put your fingers. This is one point. Keep breathing. You can even do it in their sleep. Not necessarily. The child need not be awake. You can just do that. Between the eyebrows. A slight stretch. Keep breathing in and out. And you'll find a protuberance here on your forehead. Stretch that. And the shortcut to this is all the fingers together on the forehead and relax. Now we are integrating a primitive reflex. It is not a form of exercise. You have to take an intention. So while you do this on your child, take the intention that yes, when I touch the body, he is calm. When I give something to eat, the body is calm. But that doesn't mean that the changes would come within a single day. It takes time, but yes, it helps. So all of us are here. Can you all also relate to it? Where you ticklish, still ticklish, labels and tags of clothing feel uncomfortable, you avoid crowded places, don't like hugs, socks are not your best friends, you find it difficult to touch certain textures. How many of you can actually dig sand and soil with bare hands? Combing is painful. Can you also share a few tips which have worked for you or for your child? You can type it in the chat box, we can always share. These were certain queries, there are a lot more, we'll keep answering them. So the question was about high intake of sugar by students. So here, when we talk about it, is it artificial sugar? Is it, how can we replace it with more healthy options? Sensory diet today was just, just to make all of us aware what is a sensory diet, especially with the tactile sense. Restricted touch and sounds, please work on the positive points, they're going to help. I'll even show you the other movements. Wanted to gain more knowledge about sensory diet. I hope you did get. Unable to decide dosage, didn't understand, must be due to for the medication. Oral sensitivity, yes, even that, for that, give lot of cold, warm, sour, all those different experiences have to go into the mouth, but we can't do it in one day. Do the positive points, these are called the positive points. Do the activities which I would show now, and it will help. And for us, for oral desensitization, we use oral placement therapy, we use primitive reflex integration, and combine it with a lot of other activities so that the oral musculature is desensitized. Self-biting, pinching, hitting. So now if you talk about self-biting onto our body, pinching, those are all proprioception. So you will have to provide a proprioceptive diet. And maintaining gut health in children with autism, yes, we have a lot of food preferences available now. Acupressure helps if it's an older child. Please look into the yoga mudras that really help in developing the gut health. And above all, hydration, water intake is very, very important. We are based in Guwahati. I've been into this field since 2002, was in Delhi, was in Patna. It's been 3 years now in Guwahati, and we're very happy that it's in these, not even 3 years, it's 2.5 years, reaching Guwahati, we've already touched the lives of around 200 families, 200 plus families, and more than 400 teachers. And these are few of our upcoming workshops. So these are the queries which about reading, writing has become very challenging. So how do we help our children so that they are empowered, they are happy studying, and we are happy? That is very important. So it would be a day-to-day planner, because the brain needs 3 months, 90 days to generalize, to form those connections. So this is a 90-day success, result-oriented reflex integration for a regulated focused child. Phonics is something which helps with reading, and we would combine it with auditory and visual perception activities, which is essential to develop reading. Young adults, teenagers who are well built, very difficult when they have a meltdown. Hitting, violence, the parents are scared, they are sad, they don't know, they feel helpless. So, this would be a lifelong support which we would provide. Lifelong support means it's not that we all will live forever, but yes, the material provided to them can be used, can be referred to throughout. And as we are dealing into the senses, so it will be giving a step-by-step guide to the right sensory diet. So knowing about each and every sense, going deep into it, and the activities for it. Thanks a ton. We can take up the questions now. Please keep sending. So we have a query on oromotor issues. I've already shared. We use let me just share it so that it's easy. Okay, so we use oral placement therapy, we use primitive reflex integration, we use a lot of desensitization using food, using other materials. And when we talk about oromotor issues, it is usually the fight and flight system. So we have to work on the mororeflex. Someone has asked for the recording. Yeah, it would be provided. I would ask Bernali to send out the feedback forms. So whoever mails the feedback forms or sends it through WhatsApp, we would send the attachment to them, please. And it would be up there. Bonnie, your microphone needs to be muted. Okay, now we have how to normalize the tactile sensation in a hyperactive child like combing or brushing teeth. Yes, first of all, for brushing teeth, I usually tell parents don't do it as a first thing in the morning when they wake up. It's very difficult for them. You can do it at night, and in the morning, rinse their mouth with water, let them have something to eat, and then brush their teeth because they've already had desensitized with food. Tactile sensation, I said I'll show 3 of the exercises. I will do it. And whoever has heard of primitive reflex integration, dive deep into it. We would be, we have our modules for it, or if you have anyone, your therapist knows it, have faith in it. I am telling it from my experience. Earlier, when we set our goals, whenever you come to our center, or we take a lot of online and offline classes, so the baseline is set, the goals are set, and it would take me months, at times years, to reach a goal because I didn't know how to integrate the reflexes. But now, yes, it just happens. At times it happens even within a day. Let me share an experience. So this set of parents came with their daughter. Their main concern was she wouldn't use the washroom even in her school or outside, except the one in their residence. They had to light it up with a very bright light with another, all those, the one which we use for Diwali or any festive, which flickers. And we worked on her fear paralysis reflex, and I am very filled with pride to share the very first session. She did enter the washroom of the center, and from the next day onwards, it was easy for them to take her to any of the washrooms. She started using it in school, and now they don't have to keep the lights switched on. They have removed the bright light. She walks, she switches on the lights and uses the washroom. So that is the power of primitive reflex integration. Yes, it not only kids, it helps adolescents, it helps young adults, it helps us, it helps senior citizens. I do a lot of reflex integration technique with my own mother. And I have worked with young adults who have a lot of challenges in executive functions. They are in college, they can't wake up in the morning, they can't finish their assignments, they are not being able to mingle with the peers, and they have shown wonderful, wonderful improvement in that. So I'll just go get something I'll show about the comb. So when we talk about desensitizing, especially for combing, let the child use the comb on his or her own. It's easier. Okay. Now, how do we brush the hair? We take the comb horizontally, right? So what happens? The hair gets stuck in the bristles. Simple way. Take it this way, perpendicular. What happens? The comb will flow freely through the strands of the hair. Try that. It works. And when you talk about hyperactive child with combing, do the movements, sliding on the back, take a bed sheet, make the child slide, do a lot of rubbing with different textures, it helps. What is proprioceptive diet? Yes. So proprioception is all about joints. So how do you provide that diet to the body? I wouldn't be handling that today. Yes, we do, and I'm being very frank. When we talk about an online OT sensory profile, you don't do only a sensory profile, because when we talk about a child or an adult or any one of us, everything comes together. If there is hypersensitivity, hyposensitivity, whatever issues we are facing, there is an underlying cause, and the reflexes are not integrated. So which reflexes are not integrated? So assessment of that and the sensory profile gets combined together. So what to do for brushing of teeth? It would, first of all, what I mentioned, don't start it off the first activity in the morning. You can even do it a bit later when the child has already eaten something or the sensation has moved. Try different type of brushes, bristles. Check different type of toothpastes. Use the finger, and always remember, I don't know how old is your child, Nidhi. If you can mention that, it will be easier for me to answer that. If the child is old enough to hold the toothbrush, let the child hold it. Why? I have some type of food in my hand, right? I bring it near your mouth. If you are not sure what is there, you would just move back. You will not just open your mouth and let me put it in. The same holds for the toothbrush. When we take the toothbrush and just take it inside their mouth, it triggers their fight and flight response. The Moro gets activated, the Moro reflex. Are there any other questions, or I will show the 3 exercises which I wanted to show. And okay, what should be given to eat before breakfast, like solid? Anything, whatever the child likes. Anything. You can even just give a sip of water. Let the child have the water, right? And then we can go move on to brushing. Anyone else? And kindly do send the feedback, whatever, anything which you want to know more about. We would be holding these free webinars on different topics. So the ones which we have scheduled, one would be on phonics for sure. One would be on oral placement therapy, where I know the tools are very expensive, so I usually adapt it with the things which we find around in the house. Okay, so since we don't have any more questions here, I'll just show you the exercises ones. The very easy ones, I would love everyone to try it at home. Looks very easy, but it isn't. The first one which I would like to show you, if the spinal gland reflex is not integrated, all of you try it. Can you move smoothly, lift your hip and move forward? My legs are straight, my back is straight, I am not hunched. Can you move? Because few of our children would do this. This is how they need to move. Not only children, a lot of parents, because they say, okay, sit straight, do this, move, and I'll be like, come, join us. And it is so difficult for them. Can you try that? This is one, to integrate your spinal reflex. The other, it can be any floor. You can take the child out to the park, on the grass, wherever. So lie down, legs straight, and you slide on the back. Most of us, when we do it, this is how we would move. And our children, how will they move? When the reflex is not integrated, this is how they need to move. So, check it. Day one, if you're trying it today, what is their movement? Check it after 15 days, you will find a difference. The other is called snow angel. How do we go? Straight. Move your hands up and down. Easy peasy? Do it. It is not easy. And if your child's spinal gland reflex is still active, they find it very difficult. So you can modify it. You can ask them to do it standing. You help them, whichever way. And yes, what I said, very easy. Take a bed sheet, make the child lie down and drag the child. You can do it on their back. They can be on their tummy, right? They can sit. They can even stand. It would give them a wonderful vestibular input. And when they do it on their back, they get the spinal reflexes gets integrated. Before ending, I would just want you to have a look at the upcoming workshops.